Hello viewers, well now I'm joined by Chief Game Designer for Dirt Rally, Paul Coleman. Paul, thanks for your time today. It's 5 years since we last had a chat. Last time we spoke it was at Battersea on a nice sunny day. Now we're here up in a chilly Welsh morning. The journey from Dirt 3 to Dirt Rally, tell me where it began and what we've been through.
It's been a pretty tough road actually. I think it started out actually going out there and doing some co-driving for real, starting to experience what it was like to be in one of these cars and compete. The event atmosphere, the forces that go through your body as you're getting chucked around in one of these cars, and it started to get me thinking really about what we were perhaps not focusing on properly, or some of the areas that we could have focused on that we decided not to focus on when we were making some of our previous games. We knew that our community had a desire for a more authentic rally experience, and so we started to join the dots between what I was experiencing in real life and what those guys were asking us to do. Now we started off by making some narrow stages like they are in real life. We started to run some of our old Dirt 3 cars down there, and those cars they just couldn't make it down those stages. The technicality of the road and the fallibility that I think we'd embraced by using those real stages and trying to get all the camber and stuff in there meant that those cars were they didn't have the fidelity of control required. So that meant that we had to really start thinking about what we were doing with our simulation engine. And for a couple of years we were limited. We didn't actually have a simulation programmer who was willing to go in and kind of open Pandora's box on this old engine that we'd been using for many years for our games before. We did eventually get that hire in, and Steve was willing to go in there and sort of get his hands dirty in the engine, but that only got us so far. We knew that the numbers were looking good, but we didn't really have anyone to validate that. So what we actually ended up doing was hiring in John Tucker, who drives the rally car that I co-drive in, and he actually worked with us as our project manager but also a test driver for us. So for a year we had this constant iteration between our physics coder or our simulation coder doing all of the updates to the code, and then John spending the evening testing out what had happened. So it was kind of like a daily iteration on the physics engine, and that made a huge difference. So we were very confident that what we'd done represented the sport authentically, and then it was a case of just building up this package from there.
No, I mean, it's certainly interesting that you went and did it. I mean, you were co-driver, John was a driver, doing a few rallies. There's no substitute, is there, for that kind of experience and taking that to the home? And I think there's a lot of authenticity that's just been missing from rally games for years. I mean, it was fun, but it didn't capture the essence of rally. And what's been, you've seen that now. It's not just about narrow stages, it's about crowds, it's about marshals, it's about, everything, emergency vehicles, whatever's there, it generates that sort of atmosphere. But it's also what we were saying about the views and stuff like that. So pushing a graphics technology, what's been the biggest challenge then of saying, right, we've got the vision, we know what it is to be in a rally car. What's the big challenge there?
I think it was actually a bit of a fortunate thing that we started on PC, because we were able to push boundaries, knowing that the players out there had much stronger hardware than was available on the consoles that we had been making games for. The challenge then came to bring that experience back over to console and make sure that it was all running at 60 frames at 1080p. But yeah, like some of those stages in Greece, they've actually got thick forest at the side, and we actually felled some of those trees to get those vistas in there, because it's really important to see where you're going and where you've come from in a stage. And when you've got some beautiful switchback hairpins like you get in those stages, it was good for us to get that stuff in there. But actually it's just been the beauty of making those real stages and representing them in game. They're iconic rally stages for a reason, partly because they're fantastic to drive cars down, but the sheer geography of the locations mean that you also get some incredible views as you go along. So while you shouldn't be looking at the beautiful views, you should be focusing on the road ahead. I think it is really important to get that stuff through. So as you said, it's a sense of journey thing, and it's something that we perhaps artificially inseminated into our tracks before through our level design process. I think now we've actually found that there is this other way, this embracing the fallibility of the road actually leads to some beautiful moments as well.
Now, obviously, you've gone for authentic simulation handling. you're bringing it to console. We've had this, more sort of PC style simulations now coming to console. That's a positive thing. So PS4, Xbox One owners, what can they look forward to in the conversion?
Yeah, so we've got a few extra bits of content that we've thrown in there, although it's important to say that all of this stuff that we're putting into the console version is being delivered to the PC players as a free update on the day of release, which is April 5th. But we've got 2 new rally cars, so that's the Renault Alpine in the 60s class, so that's a rear-engine, rear-wheel drive car, very different experience to the 60s cars that we had in there originally. We've also got an 80s rear-wheel drive car, which is the Renault 5 Turbo, so mid-engined, which is again different to the Ford Sierra and the BMW M3 that are in that class already. So I think they add a little bit more colour and variety into those car classes and give you a new challenge if you've already played the game, or certainly an advanced challenge if you haven't. For Rallycross, we've rounded off the whole experience. We've got an entry-level mini kind of single-make series, very similar to what you get in the British Rallycross scene. It's just a beautiful way to get into Rallycross, those small little minis just jostling against one another on track. And then we've got an intermediate class, which is the Super 1600, so that's Opel Corsa. We've got a Renault Clio and a Peugeot 207 in that, so it's a really nice stepping stone to then get into the supercars, which in the PC version we just thrown players into that, expected them to earn their money, go and spend it on a big supercar and then go out and deal with 600 horsepower. So yeah, we've got that kind of stepping stone in there. And then Sebastian Loeb's Peugeot 208 Pikes Peak car, we'd had some problems negotiating the license for that while we were working on the PC version, but we managed to get that sorted, so it felt right to bring that into the console experience. And gravel Pikes Peak, a full gravel version of Pikes Peak. We had cars that had only run on the full gravel version, and yet we were asking players to drive on a tarmac or a mixed version, which isn't the same, no. And those cars felt great when they were on the gravel for a reason, and so to do the full gravel version was great. But we actually did some extra steps, so we've put some vintage cars in there, well, not vintage but like 70s 80s cars in there to give it a bit more of an authentic feel. We've removed a lot of the crash barriers as well, so some of those corners which do have Armco now, we've actually just gone and put some pole and tape or mesh there, so you will fall off the edge now if you go a bit wide on those corners. Yeah, the only thing we haven't done is put naughty shorts on the crowd like you would have got in that era.
Now, so console versions, I take it the Xbox One and PS4 versions are looking pretty similar at this stage.
Yeah, so I think it was more challenging to get the Xbox One running at 1080p at 60 frames, but we got there in the end. I think they both look great. They're about sort of high on the PC kind of graphics settings scale. So yeah, I'm happy with how the game's looking. I think we've had a great engine, and we were a little bit worried about moving to this generation of consoles, but now that we've got there, I think we're sort of kicking ourselves that we didn't do it a little bit earlier, because it has come across quite nicely and it does still look great. But yeah, this game's been all about focusing on what the game feels like, and I'm so delighted that not only have we got the game feeling great, but we've managed to transfer that directly onto the consoles, and it really does carry across beautifully.
Visually, it looks great. With the controller, plays really well. Although I will say, Sebastian Loeb's car is very challenging. Yeah. However you're going to play it with the wheel or with a controller. I suppose looking to the future, we've got VR. You're testing VR now on the PC version. We've got the Vive, the Oculus, and PlayStation VR was announced yesterday in terms of price. Is there anything you can say on that sort of for now, for the future, what you're looking at plans-wise?
Yeah, so I mean, we've currently, if you plug and play your Oculus into Dirt Rally, it will work, but it's a bit rough around the edges. So I think VR and Rally does go hand in hand quite well. The fact that you look sideways out of the car sometimes if you're really throwing it around some of the corners, I think that's really beneficial in VR, being able to turn and look in the direction that you're travelling. Actually, the undulation and the gradient changes that you get in a rally stage, VR really highlights that, where our cameras in the traditional 2D screen would perhaps iron some of that out or dampen it a little bit. I think you actually get that sense of, whoa, I'm going up a hill here, and you have to make the adjustment with your head, so that really helps. It's something that we're definitely looking to support as we go forwards, because I think it does make sense. I think all racing games should be looking at VR, because we have this beautiful advantage of the position that you're sat in the car is locked. We're not an FPS, you're not trying to walk around the environment, you're locked in your machine, and then it's up to what you do with your head ride and the control method of being held onto a steering wheel. You know, you're not moving your hands around. Yeah, okay, maybe if you're grabbing for a handbrake that gets a bit weird, but especially if someone's standing next to you and doing awkward things. But yeah, I think VR is right for rally games, and I think it makes sense for us to go down that road. How we support it and what we support at this stage isn't decided, but we are looking to work more closely with some of these providers to make sure that we can represent their hardware as best as possible.
Brilliant. I mean, for me, so, you know, the immersiveness of VR, you know, I think it's another level when you've experienced it. And I think these headsets, you know, it's just the beginning. But like you say, being in a car, being there, nothing like it. Well, final question. This has been a big project. It's taken years to get to this point. You were a small team, became a bigger team. You fought through. Looking back at the project, what's the thing that you've been most pleased about?
I think getting that sense of rally atmosphere and the feeling of being in the car so right. I think the fact that the rally drivers out there, the guy that runs this rally school plays this game in his spare time, and being able to chat with those guys and getting that sense that we've delivered on our promise has been hugely rewarding, and it's given us a renewed confidence in this type of game. Lots of people have always asked me, oh yeah, did you always set out to return to your roots, you know, with the Colin McRae series? Actually, we just set out to make the best rally game ever made, and that's what we I believe we've achieved, you know, and to take that and continue that kind of ethos, I think will be really beneficial. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the future.
Well, thanks for your time, Paul. Great for the brand. It's something I'm sure Colin McRae himself would be proud of. It's a brilliant example.
I'd love to think that he's looking down on us and he's smiling on what we've produced. So yeah, onwards and upwards.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, thanks very much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Cheers.
Well, how do you like it?